Good morning. Welcome to episode 4. Today we have Dewson Architecture as our guest. We're going to cover insights into viable, sustainable architecture. We're in a green room for the first time, and thank you for joining us. I'm Ara Sahakian, managing partner of PE Gate. What we do is we invest in growing businesses, and we offer those investments to our accredited investors. I'm joined by my wonderful friend Michael Smith. Looking good, Michael?
Trying my best.
Yeah. So Michael is an amazing partner of ours. He actually has a great relationship with Dewson, and not only has he works with us in strategy, but also has brought this investment opportunity. So Michael.
Thank you, Ara. Nice to be here. A real honor in our green room. Good to see Bill and Kyle. So my name is Michael Smith. I'm the founder of Integram Training Group. Our focus is to help small and medium-sized enterprises like Dewson to grow and thrive. And Bill, it's been, 5 years, believe it or not, Bill, since we've been working together. And I still remember our first conversation we had, which we were all inspired. But it's really great to be here, and what a great company Dewson is. So, Bill, nice to see you.
Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us to this webinar. We're excited to be working with you and getting the word out with what we do in terms of sustainable architecture. So we're happy to be here. And
awesome. Kyle?
Yeah, hi. Welcome everyone. I'm Kyle England. I've worked with Bill for the better part of my adult life, almost 20 years. Excited to be here as well.
Awesome.
So Bill, creating sustainable legacies, what does that mean?
Well, it's a big mean. We look at sustainability as achieving equilibrium between the man-made environment and the natural environment. And how that works in terms of our milieu, our media that we work in, the building industry, that is creating an equilibrium between the life cycles of our buildings and nature's life cycles. So that's the sustainability. If we can achieve equilibrium, we can get sustainability. The legacy is pushing it forward. If we can push that to sustainability 50 years, that's okay. But if we can push it forward 100 years, that's better.
Game changer.
It's a game. And now that becomes a legacy. We create a building today that has goes past our lives. It becomes a legacy into the future, a sustainable legacy.
You have beautiful designs. We've seen them. We're going to show them on this webcast as well. So it's not just, sustainable, but the creative, sustainable designs. Yeah.
Oh, you can have beautiful buildings and them be sustainable. In fact, it's a win-win. You don't have to have an ugly building to be sustainable, and a beautiful building can be sustainable.
Kyle, what are your comments on that?
Just maybe to add a little bit on that, the creative process that we go through, we try to be inclusive with all of the team members on the project, the client obviously, but also all of the consultants, all of the authorities. It's important to get everyone's voice in that story.
Absolutely. And we went through quite a process to come up with creating sustainable legacies. It was a journey. It didn't happen overnight. But clearly at the very beginning, you guys were passionate about sustainable architecture, so it made our job pretty easy. But Kyle, do you want to talk about that in terms of the process and how we got there?
Yeah, sure.
Remember some of those conversations
sure,
were quite interesting, shall we say.
Michael's been working with Dewson for over 5 years.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, right? So you've seen the whole journey, where they started and where they are now.
Those sessions allowed us to kind of zero in on the things that we wanted to be as architects, the type of buildings that we wanted to work on, and to put the language and the idea into fruition.
Bill?
Well, you help us define our values. Kyle and I have been together, we've been together since, almost 20 years now.
Wow.
So 5-6 years ago you came together, and we've been developing our expertise and experience in sustainability and green, pushing forward, and we needed to really define our values.
Yes.
And you help us literally, you know, write them down and create a foundation for how we wanted to proceed in the future. And it's been fantastic. It's great.
But you guys truly believe in this. I know sustainability is a buzzword these days, and everyone's trying to do their bit. But you guys have been doing this for 20 years. Like you, truly, it's part of your philosophy. Can you go into how the philosophy is manifested into the business? How did it start? Why did you decide to go into sustainability?
Well, for me, before even Kyle joined, I started the firm in 1996. One of our early buildings was a cottage up in Georgian Bay. And we, maybe you could pull up Georgian Bay Cottage, one of those images.
It's a beautiful property.
There's this cottage. Now, this is, that's the wood structure, mass timber structure. That is old growth, Doug fir timber. Now, the beauty, and just hold it on that image if you would. The client had a natural desire to do this in mass timber, and I explored that with him. We were looking for a timbersmith, and the contractor in Parry Sound put us in touch with his brother, and he knew of a timbersmith in Horsefly, BC, who had knowledge of 2 original old growth Doug fir trees that had been killed by bug kill. Fast forward, he milled them, put them together in this building, and I said, wow, this is sustainable. Instead of having it rot in the woods, we turned it into a building that we can push forward 100 years.
Can we see
400
the
years.
end result?
End result, yeah. That's the end result.
Beautiful.
Okay. So otherwise that tree would have rotted.
It would have rotted and thrown its carbon up into the atmosphere. Now it's sequestered for 400 years.
Awesome. I want to ask you about net zero, this term, Kyle. I'm going to ask you, Kyle, what does that mean? I mean, there's a lot of marketing jargon out there.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to know the real goods.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of jargon, a lot of greenwashing out there for sure. Net zero energy specifically is basically a balance of the energy that a building consumes on an annual basis, offset by the energy that the building produces on that same annual basis.
And how realistic is that?
Well,
to get there.
It obviously depends on the circumstances of the site and the conditions and the size of the building and whatnot, but there are many buildings that are already net zero.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that, Bill?
Yeah, that's the net zero on the operating side of a building.
Right.
There's also the front end of the building, the actual construction of the building, the embodied energy that's in the building, the embodied carbon that lets off GHGs. By creating a net zero operating of the building, we can amortize the carbon in that building through time. So we can lower our carbon emission footprint.
Beautiful.
Over time.
Beautiful.
And what is the problem with the increase in emissions with GHGs? So how does
Greenhouse gases.
Greenhouse gases. Yeah, and the planetary warming, like how can you reduce the planetary warming through architecture?
Well, not too many people, I think we intrinsically realize that probably 40 to 45% of our greenhouse gases are the result of our built environment. The building of our built environment and the operating of our built environment. So if we
this is a global number, is it not?
This is a global number.
It's huge.
This is a global number. And so if we can reduce in the construction of our buildings, the production and construction of our buildings, if we can reduce the GHGs emissions, well, that's great. And if we, over the operating period of the time, we can push this out a couple of 100 years, we can amortize that GHG that's at the front end building over the operating, so that we spread it out. So,
and Kyle, we've been talking. So, PE Gate has actually invested in Dewson, a minority stake, and very thoughtful of you, Bill, to plan your retirement eventually. So your foresight is amazing. I know you have a wonderful young team behind you as well. But one of the things I heard and I didn't really think about is not just the environmental impact, the health impact of what you do. Can you talk about some of the health benefits of going more green on your construction?
Sure. Yeah. There's with those quantitative results, like lower energy costs, lower capital costs, or sorry, lower carbon, embodied carbon in the building. A kind of a corollary of that is improved performance of the building enclosure, which results in better comfort for the occupants, better acoustics, better lower dust coming in from the outdoors. And
what about allergies and stuff like that?
Likewise. Anywhere air can flow through a building enclosure, allergies like pollen and dust and everything can come in from that outside environment as well.
Yeah. And you got a younger team now, which is awesome. Yeah. And you got new blood in the company and energy.
Yes.
And what have they brought to the table, Bill, from your perspective?
Well, what they bring to the table is incredible skills. When I started architecture, it was parallel rule, and we were drawing on Mylar. Now, and then we gravitated to two-dimensional graphics. Now we're modeling, and this team can come in and model our projects to the hilt, not only aesthetically beautifully, but also technically. And using BIM technology, we're now being able to. They're showing us the way of how to advance our architectural tools to the, and on the vice versa, they're passionate about sustainability. The next generation has grown up on recycling.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. The one thing to just add on that is the legacy, right? There's this generational transition from to our I think of my children, I think of the young people in our office. There's definitely a focus and intelligent minds out there, and we're happy to have them.
Yeah. So Kyle, I've seen some of your renderings. Talk about technology and how that has changed your business in terms of speaking to customers and creating visual images and so on that the customers can understand a lot better.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a game changer too.
Over the years, I think we first introduced BIM software into our office in 2010. BIM, for those who don't know, Building Information Modeling. It allows us to three-dimensionally model our projects, and over the years we've learned different ways to create visualizations out of that software.
I think we have an example. Do we have the video?
Yeah, there's a 3D model there. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is crucial for our clients, also for us, obviously, but for our clients that maybe not as three-dimensionally inclined as we are to understand their projects.
So walk us through this property, the sustainability aspects of it, the design.
Okay, well, this is an east-west property. The length, longitudinal length of this goes east-west. So that clear story that you see at the top of the roof, it's facing north. That we've integrated passive ventilation technology and indirect north light flooding into the building. So we're saving on electricity and we're saving on cooling costs in the summer months because we can naturally vent. Here you see the south-facing slope of the roof. The major shed roof is covered with solar panels. That's facing due south in this particular site. This is going to lead to us on this particular site being able to generate on the net zero energy. We can probably generate as much energy on site as this building will need. Here you'll see it's got a very high performance envelope. You'll notice down into the, there's a window well that takes deep light into the basement. We can take advantage of natural light. Here is our driveway, which is permeable pavers. So we're allowing rainwater to seep in and be stored on the site. What I like about this particular building is the garage. Instead of just a garage door, we've turned this. This is aesthetics now, right? We've turned the corner with this garage so that it doesn't really appear as if it's a garage. It's more of a component. And that kind of pulls us around to the side entrance through the garage. Oh, this is nighttime. And here's the technology, right? This is not a building.
This is something that you did in-house. correct?
Yeah, this is our team. This is our guys.
It's amazing.
Our guys are doing this, and they pick it up like this, bang.
Yeah.
You know, so it's fantastic. And we're able to take it through the time of the day, and we're able to take it through nighttime. We can rotate all around. We can show this. Here we're looking at the lighting internally, right? We can mimic LED lighting, soft lighting. And when you look in here, it says, well, maybe here's the kitchen that's working. We can have some bright light there, but we'll have softer light up on the second floor. So we're using the model to technically inform us of our sustainable aspects of the particular building.
Amazing.
We have a question from David. The question is wondering if LEED is still a thing. What are the advantages to a builder, owner, occupant of designing a building to LEED standards and certification?
Got
Yeah, LEED definitely is still a thing. It's in Canada. It's run by the Canada Green Building Council. LEED, for those who don't know, is a certification process for quote-unquote green buildings. Yes, it's a thing for us personally as architects in Dewson Architects. We basically try to use the good things about LEED or Passive House or any other certification process out there to kind of find the right pieces that fit our clients.
I'm going to add. We want to add that. So LEED is an evolving. It's an acronym. Leaders in Environmental and Energy Design, and it's been around for now 25, 30 years, something like that. And it's an evolving system. Like we're at the beginning of all of this. 20 years ago, or 40 years ago when I was a kid, we threw garbage out the window. Well, I didn't.
You never did that, Malcolm.
Okay, I didn't do that, right? But the madmen did. And so we're at the beginning of it. And LEED, that certification program, is evolving. We're LEED certified, Dewson Architects. We've had a first LEED Platinum building in Toronto. LEED Platinum home for homes was certified 10 years ago.
Do we have an image of that?
Sure. The Mid-Toronto home, AWAD 10. I think it's slide 10. Yeah, this is it. This is in Midtown Toronto. This is a fascinating building. So this was LEED certified. So it's still valid. So who asked the question? Dave?
David.
Dave. It's still valid. It's still evolving. If you could keep that image up, AY. Am I going on a bit, or should I go?
Yeah, and then
should I go?
The interior too. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just keep it here. You'll see there's solar panels on the top of that roof. That was the initial FIT program in Ontario, which some people remember. All of these are, the glazing is triple glazed. All of that brick is a 100-year-old brick that was recycled from Windsor, a warehouse in Windsor, and brought back up here, and we were able to secure it at 60 cents a brick versus $1 a brick normal cost for a new brick. And the mason said on that, "This is the best brick I've ever worked." An all-star mason. So there's all sorts.
Otherwise, it would be in a landfill. Is that
exactly?
Yeah, be ground up and yeah.
This is the legacy portion of it. Right, where if we're able to reach back into 100 years and get a 100-year-old brick and move it into today and push that forward, now all of a sudden we've got a material that's lasting 200 years. Put it into the building, and if it's got resilience, they can go another 100.
Yeah. But let's talk about viability. Is it expensive to do all this?
Right? No, well, that brick was less expensive.
Right, but generally speaking on sustainable architecture.
Well, it's the envelope really where the money is, eh, Kyle?
Yeah. You have to think about the not just the capital cost of the building, but the operational cost of the building. And what is the lifetime of this building? If we're thinking short term, 10, 20 years, then it doesn't make sense to improve the enclosure of the building or do higher performing mechanical systems or what have you. But if we're thinking century plus, then it makes perfect sense to spend a little bit more money up front so that your operational costs are much smaller long term. I think Passive House advertises, if you do a Passive House certified building, you could be using about 10% of the energy of a typically built building.
And usually that means the payback period is anywhere from 10 to 20 to 25 years, say 20 years, right? For most of the components in that building. Well, if you've got a 100-year-old building or 200-year building, if you can push it forward, well, that's just 20%. Then you've got 80 years and so on of real savings.
And that was another question related about green leases. Any advancements in green leases? Any support from municipalities or governments on green leases? Or is that not?
No. Well, not that we're involved with. We work. There's a lot of sustainable programs that are being initiated by the government. Tier 1, 2, 3, in terms of Toronto and.
Yeah, and different government levels have, over the years, brought in different incentive programs and some taken away those incentive programs. But yeah, there are still some programs out there for, yeah.
And this comes back to viability. Like, the government can help, and they're helping with legislation, right? There's the Clean Building Act that was just last year and driving us towards net zero. There's a delicate balance because we can't afford to just do it all at once, right? And this is the viability side of things. We need to be able to incrementally do it. So government programs need to move slowly.
They do move slowly.
Yeah.
Not like us. Kyle, you're recently a partner in the business. How does that make you feel?
Oh, exciting! It's like we said earlier, 20 years about of growth with this firm and the reputation that we've garnered over the years. I'm excited to see that growth go forward.
Does it change how you work and think about the business longer term?
I think yes. Obviously, having a stake in the game, it does. Personally, I've kind of treated it as though it was part of my. I was a part of the business for a long time anyway. Yeah.
And it was, sorry, it was part of the process, so our investment process.
Yes.
That Kyle got involved.
Yes.
Not just a partner, but really an equity partner.
Yes.
Because some are just.
Well, that's part of firm. That's firm legacy.
Succession planning. So
succession planning,
right?
And
you're 29 now, so.
Yeah, so I don't have much time left. I only got about 8 decades, and we'll go. So it's been fantastic. I want to say, joining up PE Gate, coming in because that expands our scope and expands the base that we can get out to and give the message.
But it's not just Kyle, there's other partners involved as well, so it's it's great for the long-term viability of the business.
It's beautiful to have that backup support.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And we love what you do, and that's part of the reason we're involved. And we have a question, because we've covered a lot of residential right now.
Yes.
The question is actually on commercial. Are you finding a lot of demand on the commercial and industrial side? And maybe residential condos, but if you could speak to.
Well, we're under construction with a commercial office building. Well, could you pull up 1067 Yonge, the front the first 21 with an exclamation mark? It's the front of the building. Yeah, there we go.
Beautiful.
Okay, here is this is a commercial building. This is a historic house that you see in the front. The old Jarvis House on Yonge Street, which we are completely retrofitting to a high-performance envelope and bring down the actual energy operating of that particular component of the building down to as close to zero as we can. And in behind is a mass timber 4-story structure that it will be built new with this is facing east out over Midtown Toronto, a suburb of Midtown Toronto, and here is we've got vertical fins here. These are triple glazed windows that are being solar shaded from the southeast with those fins. There's a deck on the 4th floor. This is an office building that is integrated. Oh.
It looks beautiful.
And sorry, what was the, are we?
No, we're good.
Just the demand on the commercial to go sustainable, that's an obvious example.
I want to add one point.
Please.
That's a 4-story building. We've designed it to be 8-story ready. Here is about viable. The owner didn't need that, but the bylaws are changing in Toronto that part of Yonge Street will allow for 30-meter buildings, 8-story buildings. So we've infused into that so that you do not have to deconstruct. They can just build on top of that. That's no mean feat.
Yeah.
So we push that viability.
Yeah, and to point out, the client was interested in that long-term vision, right? He wanted the legacy for his business, right? And considering the additional capital cost to make it 8-story ready, he saw the value in that.
How long does it take to build a building like that, Kyle?
Oh.
Design, construction.
Design approvals and construction, it should take a lot less than it does.
Construction will be about 18 months.
Okay.
There's a bit of retention in that building, 6 months prior to that, and then the approval period. We went through COVID with that, so it slowed down the process, and that took about 1.5 years. So that adds up to about 3.5 years. We need to shorten that.
And you got a good building partner on the project as well.
We've got a fantastic building partner on that, and Vaughan Construction. They're terrific. They're bought in on sustainable design. As we talk about this, it's very important that the craftsmanship of the contractor, of all the builders, it's a building industry. It isn't just architects. It's engineers. It's the builders. It's the authorities having jurisdiction. We all have to work top level to make these things happen.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we recently attended a meeting you had in Rosedale.
Yes.
And then I was impressed how Heritage was actually on your side with the design, and it's a process. So your client, it was amazing how you were working with the client and the community at the same time.
Yes.
And
well,
talk about that. Yeah.
We're all on the same team. In this particular case, it was a public meeting, and we were talking with the neighbors, and they came into the meeting with mostly objections.
Huh.
So we worked with them and heard all of their objections and integrated it into the design, and it's not that hard to do.
What kind of objections do they have?
They were aesthetic objections. They were objections that what we were doing new. In this particular case, it was new construction, and they were worried about the heritage, the sustainable heritage of the district, and they thought we were getting a little too contemporary. And how can we push it forward without copying history? And give so it doesn't stagnate.
Yeah.
And push it forward.
For sure.
So it was a process in that public meeting of working with the neighbors to show them how we're all working together.
Yeah.
And they're happy now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a process.
Yeah. So.
Well, just maybe to add to that, that speaks to what I said earlier about how we encourage the team, the broad project to have their voice, and in this case, the neighbors and the consultants. We work with a great heritage consultant and the city staff. We want everyone's voices, because in the end, the combination of everyone's voices is a better result than one or two voices.
It made it a better building.
Yeah.
Oh, the input from
It did.
From everyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it got us to look a little different. And I said, oh yeah, okay.
What's the future, Kyle, of architecture? Where do you see it going?
A few ideas on that. One, the technology is just advancing leaps and bounds. We mentioned earlier BIM technology and 3D visualization technology. it's going to make the design and execution of the building or buildings much easier over time, and we're going to be able to glean more and more information from that. We'll speaking of embodied carbon, we'll start to gather embodied carbon calculations very upfront in the design process to say, okay, well maybe we don't do it like this. We change it so we can lower the embodied carbon by doing one simple change early on. I kind of think of the building industry as the parallel would be the automobile industry, and thinking about how electric cars have come to the forefront, and every major manufacturer is now making electric cars. Or at minimum hybrids. Or at minimum hybrids, right? And so I see the building industry following suit.
Interesting. Yeah. Can you learn from other countries like Denmark that are way leaps and bounds ahead?
There's talk about embodied carbon and the tail end of the life cycle of a building, where you're starting to in the past we've demolished. Now we're turning over and we're deconstructing buildings. And there's companies in Belgium, I think it's Rotor, and in Switzerland, Materium. These are companies that are deconstructing existing buildings, and they're deconstructing the parts of the buildings that are obsolete.
Right.
Let's say the mechanical systems, taking the copper of the piping or whatever, and out of the building. They're leaving, the architects and the designers are leaving the structure of the building.
The good stuff.
Good stuff. But they're taking this, and instead of dumping it into landfill, they're creating a whole business with franchises across Europe, and creating depositories for these deconstructed materials that can be reused. And it's fantastic because there's this patina. Sometimes whether it's tiles or wood flooring or doors or so on and so forth, all of it gives instant history and patina to a building. So you can get this hybrid.
Talk to me about patina.
Well, patina is like, think of copper. Copper roof goes on, bright, shiny copper color, then it goes to brown, and then it eventually goes green, right? It develops a patina.
Right.
And you don't develop that patina
overnight.
It takes 100, it takes decades to get that green, right? These materials that have gone through a century of a building are now being deconstructed and reused. So we're not throwing it,
yeah, maybe we could pull up an image of, I'm not sure what it's called, the Midtown house, the interior shot. We can talk about the wood that was used.
Here.
Yeah, perfect.
This is a perfect example. This, you can see, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, sure, yeah. The structure here, the wood timbers in the ceiling, were reclaimed from an aircraft hangar in built in the 1940s for the Second World War. In the Ottawa area. You can see on the sides of the timbers there, the round circles. Those were the connection points for the truss system from the aircraft hangar.
So interesting.
Yeah. So this is kind of along that line that kind of, in a way, instant history. There's a story behind the pieces that are being brought into these buildings, and a story that the homeowner can be proud of.
And that must add to the resale value.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Story to this building.
Well, yeah, and and it's marrying. The owner came to us and said, "I want to have a feeling of a Midtown loft space." Okay, but it was a new building. Well, that's how we created it.
Talk to me about mass timber versus steel, and what your preference is, and
all building materials have their value, right? Steel, concrete, steel and wood. Let's compare the steel and wood. Yeah. Steel has more embodied energy in it than wood, so if you use it structurally,
it's stronger.
It has stronger, but it also takes more energy, and more GHGs are released to actually get a steel beam in place in a building ready to use versus wood.
That's the 40%.
That's of that 40% GHG is that upfront embodied 20% that gets into building. Well, if you do wood, it's less embodied energy in there, and I don't know what the exactly statistics are, but that doesn't mean that steel isn't great, right? A nice balance is being able to use the timbers for the posts and beams and using the steel in the connections, where wood is not very viable. It doesn't have the strength, but you use the steel where the steel makes the most sense. And we use concrete in the foundation where it makes the most sense.
Right.
So you use concrete underground, you use wood for the structure, and you use steel for the connections. Then you have you can lower the embodied energy in that.
Yeah, yeah, and the mass timber community that's been a proponent of mass timber for a number of years it's really coming to the forefront, and there's a number of buildings in Toronto and across North America and the world that are using mass timber. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we have one more question from Hussein. Are you having challenges hiring sustainable architects? Are the universities keeping up versus you need, or are you hiring and having to train them?
Great question.
Geez, that is a good question. Yeah, we balance that with what our need is, right? So when we have younger interns or students, they don't have as much sustainable training and environmental training. We have to pump them up how to do the details of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need people that have got 10 years of experience. And there are many people that have great experience. They're following the same path as we're
But you're
following.
a training ground, Bill. I mean, you guys have experience. You can learn so much in university, but you got to learn hands-on as well, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Education can only take you so far. You definitely need, experience within a firm doing actual projects, going to actual construction sites.
Yeah.
We can point to what point in the right direction, so that you're not, maybe this is greenwashing. This is really sustainable design.
But the universities are doing more and more in that space. There's no
Oh
question
yeah,
about
they
it,
have
right?
to.
Yeah, they have to keep up.
They have to.
Just maybe just a little
Yeah,
point on
go
that.
for it.
I had a conversation, or an email exchange with a friend that's a professor at U of T, University of Toronto, and he's asked if he can bring some of his students to one of our projects to take a tour, and I said, fantastic, yeah, sure. Let me ask the owner and the contractor, and we're trying to arrange that for the next couple of weeks.
Makes so much sense.
Well, that's funny. So one of our partners, Sarman, who's not here today, had approached you. This is like going back for his MBA program, and you actually supported him in his thesis on laneway homes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And they would do it. It was laneway homes, and they wanted to do it, and they were looking at doing it in mass timber, and prefabrication. They were incorporating prefabrication with mass timber on the newly allowed.
But Kyle, the training ground that you've created and the way you're managing your team, I think, is really important, and that's where we see the technology meeting, this ground, which is a game changer for the business, right?
Yeah.
In terms of getting your staff up to speed.
Yeah, for sure. Like, not only do you have to have the experience, but you have to have the willingness and the openness to learn and to grow, and Bill and I, over the years we've basically said, we want people that are wanting to do every part of the business,
right.
and if you're not not shy about kind of just immersing yourself, then it's going to be better off for you and for our firm.
And it's fantastic. It makes an unbelievable working environment, right? The people that we've got coming on board are filled with juice, and it's just it's marvelous day to day.
They put you in your place, is that right, Bill?
And you know what? Our clients love it too, right? Because the clients can come into it when they come in and they meet with us. They can feel the energy of our whole team, and
for sure.
And it juices them. All of a sudden, now they're having fun with their projects.
Exactly.
A few more questions. This one's on HVAC. Anything on geothermal on the project shown, or have you worked on?
Well, yeah, that.
This house built about 10, 12 years ago has a geothermal field in the backyard.
This one here?
Yeah, this one.
The geothermal field.
Yeah, there's six wells were drilled into the backyard with vertical.
Really deep.
Yeah, 180 to 200 feet deep, I think. And with a closed loop system that tied into heat pumps within the building to transfer that energy out of the ground into the building.
Yeah. We've done a couple of buildings that have been geothermal. We also do we also have incorporated into a Eugenia Lake home a preheat. This is a very high performance envelope. Maybe you could put up a Eugenia Lake house. This incorporates a geothermal loop around the foundation which preheats the outside air. Now we don't have to do too much exchange of air because this is such a high performing envelope. It's very, very tight that we just really have to get air in there for the people to breathe, right? You can make it so tight that there's
no air.
There's no right? So
good sound effects.
Right. And so here, outside air, fresh air, we've got a geothermal loop. That when we were building the foundation, we already had the hole. We do this, and it does a preheat of the outside air. So you can use.
Is it almost off the grid, though?
No, it's not. The system in Ontario is feed-in tariff, right? So, or feed-in. We feed in. It's net zero, net metering. Net metering.
Yep.
Yeah. So we pump into the grid, and then the grid you buy it off.
But that building is ready to receive a solar array on the roof, a PV system. Which would basically create it into a net zero energy building.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, we have time for one more question. Thanks, Fen, for that question. Dave is asking about the lack of skilled labor. What do you look for in a good CM partner?
Ooh. Well, we just had, we have many CM, construction managers, for construction management partners, and this Friday, we're doing a very high-performing house in Etobicoke with one particular contractor. We are doing another one in Rosedale in Toronto, and we're taking the contractor, a different contractor, to that site, or sorry, in Leaside, to that site.
Both of them.
Actually. Oh, both of them.
Yeah.
We're doing the Leaside. We're taking those two construction managers to the construction manager into the site, and they're all going to be blah, 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 blah. So,
again, good side effects. I like that.
Yeah. It'll be CM speak.
Yeah, I want to talk about one thing to add to that. One thing to add to that: the willingness for the contractor to take part in training for themselves. It's great that we want to lead the way, but we need partners that are willing to take these courses. And the one that's building the Etobicoke project took Passive House training for
a lot of times you're training them on what you want too, right?
Yeah. Right, and they're taking the same programs. They're taking passive House programs.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one question about the demand for sustainable architecture. Do you see that rising?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
You know why?
You know
why?
Yeah.
Why? Because
why is that, Bill?
But it's not that much more expensive, right? It comes into the envelope.
Yes.
And we've discussed how you can amortize that over time. Mm-hmm. The building is more comfortable. You walk into a well-built building, and you can immediately feel the comfort inside. It isn't drafty. It isn't. You're not getting overloaded with heat. It's just a healthier, more comfortable building.
Yeah, and more people are obviously aware of the environmental situation we're in, and want to do their own part in that.
So how can people, if they want to talk to you, how do they get in touch with you, Bill?
Dewson, call us at Dewson, or get at Dewson at Dewson.com. That's our website. All our information is there.
And they can learn about your business online?
Right. Absolutely. Our website has everything that you need to know.
You're available. I've seen you. You're so personable. So
call me at 416-209-9215.
There's the number. There's the number up here.
We'll
Could you flash that number?
Well, thank you. We're running out of time. Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kyle and Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Before we say goodbye, a few seconds on what's going on with PEGate. We're actually live in a transaction. We're very happy that one of the big banks is supporting us on the acquisition, even though it's a small acquisition. That's what we like, and it's fully funded so far, but there's always room. And funny enough, we got a a bolt-on acquisition opportunity based on the strategy we wanted. There's something else that came up. So things are quite busy, and we love this minority interest investments as well, because that's a risk that a lot of investors are not willing to take, but we are, and we love it. So that's something that we're pursuing. So that's it for PA.
It's been great,
Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good fun.
Bill.
Thank you, Aaron.
And Dewson.com if you want to hear more about Dewson. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.